Welcome to Leadership Live. I'm Daphna Horowitz, and this is a podcast for leaders like you who want practical tips to apply in leading your business, your people, and yourself. Now, I know that leadership is a skill that can be learned, and this podcast is about doing just that. Every week, I'll talk about what really works. You'll learn to shift your mindset and practice from being good at what you do to getting great at leading people who are good at what they do so that you can get the business results that you want. Whether you're a first-time manager, entrepreneur, or seasoned executive, you're at the right place. This podcast takes you from talented expert to extraordinary leader. So get ready to master your mindset, inspire your team, and elevate your business. Welcome to a new episode of Leadership Live. Today, I'm excited to share with you something a little different. I will be having a coaching conversation with a client of mine who is really considering a big career move. She's been in corporate for 18 years and is now wanting to venture out and open her own business. And that requires a lot of courage. It requires a big mindset shift. And it requires a leap into the unknown, thinking about what you know and the experience that you have that can bring you into that place of wanting to open your own business, together with identifying what it is that you still need to learn in order to grow that in terms of other skills that you haven't had experience in, sales, marketing, establishing a business, and all of that. So what's happening here is that this woman that I'm speaking to, and she's chosen to remain anonymous, so I'm not going to share her name, but she is literally taking us on a journey of what are the worries, what are the fears, what is the purpose, what is the vision of wanting to make this bold, courageous move from working in an organization, various organizations over a career spanning 18 years and into opening your own business and taking that leap of faith. What I particularly enjoyed about the session, and I want you to watch out for, is really her ability to distinguish between what is noise that really falls into the planning, the actions, and the activity of what it means to make such a transition, and getting connected to your sense of purpose, your mission, your story, your why behind why it's so important to make this move, and really bringing your own unique story to it. Because you don't want to just open a business that is like any other, selling a service. In her case, it was selling a service around HR. She really found her own voice and her own sense of mission through her experience of what she's been through and what she wants to give into her business. Particularly poignant was the place where she discovered that she wants to be the voice of human impact. So listen out for those expressions of purpose. And another tip that I want you to follow as you listen to this interview or this coaching conversation is listen for the 3-year question, which is really one of my favorite questions to work with when people are wanting to create something different in their lives. And this is about stepping into your life 3 years from today and not looking to the future and saying what you want to do, but rather putting yourself 3 years into the future and speaking in present tense. And I actually caught it for her when she was speaking in future mode, what I do want and where I want to go and what will happen, to I'm there. And the shift in energy and determination and focus in her voice. And all of a sudden, purpose came out and a connection to herself and her story. And that was really powerful to experience. So I would say, listen to this conversation and ask yourself the same kind of questions. Whether you're considering a career transition or opening your own business or some other big change in your life, these questions that I asked my client can be questions that you ask yourself. And think about it for you as you listen to this conversation. You could have your own personal coaching experience as you listen in, and enjoy being a fly on the wall in this particularly inspiring coaching session. Enjoy.
Hi there, how are you?
Good, good. Good to connect again after so long. I'm really excited to be having this conversation with you today.
Thank you. Thank you. Me too.
Tell me, where do you want to start? What's on your mind today?
Okay, so I think I have almost made up my mind that it's time time to make a change in my career. I've only had 3 jobs my whole life. So it's not an easy thing for me to move. I've got a little bit of that post office mentality, like our parents had, you stay forever. But I am in a business where I don't necessarily believe that I'm the right fit for the business and vice versa. And I think that it's an opportunity for me now to start looking at my own business. You know, after being in HR for nearly 18 years, I really see specifically in small to medium enterprises what strategic HR can do, and not, HR in the traditional sense. And I really believe that coming into small to medium environments, I can make an impact. And I think specifically now with COVID happening and the shift of the way in which people work, and also not wanting extra headcount, etc. I think there's opportunity for me to do. I've always wanted my own thing. I've always wanted my own brand. I've looked at many businesses in the past, not in HR, but I've looked at many businesses in the past, which, when I've done the numbers or I've done the research session, they've never worked out, but I've always wanted something of my own.
Amazing.
And I think of all the effort and energy that I put into my work, working with people, I've always treated those businesses as I have my own, if it was my own.
Yeah.
So I think, if it was, I believe it could be just so much more valuable.
Amazing. So what I'm connecting to completely is, first of all, your idea of having a strategic HR function for small to medium businesses, because
Correct.
HR looks very different in a small to medium business. It's very administrative and very just take care of the, nitty gritty of doing HR.
Exactly.
And they really lack that strategic thinking around what HR really can do and contribute to a business, but they don't have access to that because they can't necessarily fit that into their budget or whatever the case may be. So I love your thinking, and I know that you have such a passion for people, and I know that when you insert yourself in a company, you really become very committed and very much a part of it. So that's awesome. I really want to know from you, what would make this conversation today amazing? Like, if you had to say, wow, that was the best use of my time, amazing.
Yes.
What would you want to get out of it?
So I think that there's a number of things. I think firstly for me, it's actually about taking the leap and being able to back myself. So I think there's fear sitting here of that, why would people use me, or why should people use me? Granted that I've got the experience, etc., it still is a really scary thought to put yourself out there. And also, going into a very secure sort of get your salary into a very different world of now finding business, looking for business. I'm not the best salesperson at all. I think if that's the last career that I would ever have, would be in sales. So I think that putting myself out there, I think I would find quite hard. Okay. Really so it's more around, I think, the mindset of that shift, and potentially just helping me to sort of figure out next steps, as I said, I've put a business plan together. It's almost there. It's, I've got the thinking around what I want to do, but I start to think of all the sexy stuff. So what's my logo going to look like? And, putting all the fun stuff together, then actually practically, what are you going to do every day? And I think it's to get my head around more around the practicalities of what this means.
Okay. So there's a lot there. I mean,
I know.
let's just kind of try and compartmentalize it. So we've got the one thing is taking the leap, backing yourself to this thing that is really connected to your passion, something you've been wanting to do for a long time, but it does require a leap. And then you spoke about a few fears that are holding you back around, firstly, am I going to be good enough? Like, why would people want to use me? That's specifically what you said. The mindset shift of going from being an employed person, safe salary, to
Yes.
owning your own business. That's something else. The sales, how do you do sales and how do you get the people in is another fear. And then I see that you're making a distinction between the fun stuff and the sexy stuff around the logo and the design and all that good, the good looking, the aesthetics or whatever you want to call it.
Yes.
and the practicality. And I see a big distinction there between, well, this is the fun stuff and this is the not so fun stuff. So there's a lot there. And again, maybe think about, you know what? Let's do something else. I'm actually going to take you out of all of this thinking because there's a lot of noise.
Okay.
And I'm going to ask you this. I would like you to think about the fact if we were having this conversation in 3 years' time, imagine that we meet up virtually or physically, doesn't matter which, but it's 3 years from today, and you phone me up and you go, Daphna, you will never believe my life has worked out exactly as I wanted. I could not have wished for anything better. Put yourself in that 2023.
What would it look like?
What's happening? Yeah.
Okay. So I would see it looking like firstly, it would be a brand that is visible and out there. So when people think HR, they automatically see that name and they know it's someone that could help. I would see myself having employed individuals. Because I don't necessarily see it as a scalable business selling time just for me. And I need to be able to think of, so I think that there has to be a number of other consultants or either specialist areas that hopefully I would have working in
3 years' time?
Let's call it, we would be 6 individuals.
Okay. And I'm just going to flag for a minute, speak in present tense. Put yourself in 2023. This is what's happening around me. My brand is visible. Okay. I'm out there. Okay, go for it.
Okay, I've got 6 employees. We've split our divisions, so we're quite focused and working on niche areas, being able to really deliver a strong service to our clients. We're very strong in that small space where you've got sort of 10 to 100 employees, where we're coming in and really changing what HR looks like. And the biggest focus, I think, for me is what we've seen is we've given CEOs and business owners a totally different perspective of what HR is.
That sounds like a bit of a sense of mission there. Yeah, carry on.
That's the biggest excitement that has been for me over the last 3 years, is meeting with these individuals and really showing them the simple things that we can do and have done for them, which shifts employee engagement and really gets their people loving the brand, loving where they are, engaged, empowered, which then, the productivity wheel then works a lot better.
So what does HR stand for in your opinion, or in your in your world?
So one of my best things that someone has said to me once was HR to them stood for human remains.
Wow.
That's how bad I think the perception of traditional HR is. And what does it stand for me? I think it stands for that human impact. So I know that I have the responsibility to the employees of a business to be able to give them strong, solid, truthful advice and really give them honest feedback and guidance, and at the same time to the business. So when I'm sitting with the CEO and they telling me something that may not fit well, I'm open and honest enough to say, I don't think that's right. I don't think that's right for your employees. Think about what you're saying. And I think that honesty of being that go-between between business, or between the head of business or managers and the employees, is that key part of HR. So firstly, really a bit of a voice, a voice of reason in a lot of areas on both sides. I think allowing the execs to realize that you don't just come to work and life is at home and you Taryn the robot and you do your thing, and it doesn't work like that today. We can certainly see it now during these times, and that everything's intertwined. And how do we actually cope with, giving employees the right support, but at the same time expecting delivery?
It's actually
that balance.
It's amazing what you're saying, because we have been thrown into this melting pot of combining everything. And I know that that's something I often say, is that you can't compartmentalize work and home. Who I am at work is different to who I am at home. It's all the same thing. And now it literally and physically is all the same thing. But what came out for me when you were speaking, you said two things. You said HR for you is about human impact. And you spoke about how you want to give voice to the people and be that bridge. So I don't know, something that came out for me was like the voice of human impact.
Amazing. Yeah. Yes, love that. And I think if I look at a lot of the smaller businesses that I've seen, and I've actually seen it now, even though I'm employed, I've had friends and other business owners phone me for advice on certain things, and you have junior or inexperienced HR administrators put in positions now, and you have a CEO who's dealing with a crisis of COVID, etc. So who's actually looking after the people? And I feel like a big part of what I'd like to do is a mentorship piece in the work that I do with the HR individuals in a company, because there may be some HR people that are doing work in the business, but right now they're either doing payroll or they're ticking the boxes.
They're doing the admin.
Exactly. But how do we empower them, and how do we give them the support to be able to give employees and the management support as well?
Why is this so important to you?
I suppose being in environments myself of never really having that HR guidance.
Okay. So you yourself felt the experience of being an HR person.
I just wish if someone would have just said to me, Taryn, read this or do that. So a lot of it was all self-exploratory, and I'm privileged, and I've also got an exploring mind, and I love reading and all those kind of things. So I would do things, but I feel like I could have fast-tracked so much more if I potentially had that leadership. And I think, as I say, I only had 3 jobs, and all 3 jobs, I never ever had anyone above me from an HR perspective or anyone leading me from an HR perspective. So I've got an unbelievable business exposure, people exposure, leadership exposure. But from an HR world, I was always the one having to sort of fill those gaps and learn and find my way by trial and error. And there's such simple... Yes, I just feel
you
like
had to do it
so
the hard
much.
way, and there's a way that you can almost fast track that trial and error learning for people within organizations,
which just gives
and then
so
have
much
that
impact.
Yeah. So where we're at is we've kind of got to the heart of what this is for you, kind of what's special about it, and also connecting it to your story, which I think is really important when you say you've come from that place of an HR person who's had to figure it out along the way, the hard way, not always knowing what to do if you only had someone who could help you. So I'm getting a clear vision of not only kind of what it looks like, what you're going to do, but also what it really means to you, where it ties into the story. And for me, that's something that's critical for you when you're thinking about building your business and speaking your business into the world and really putting yourself out there. If you're talking about being the voice of human impact, you've got to come from that place of your story and the impact that you've, or maybe sometimes a lack of impact that you've experienced, and how that translates into what you want to create. Because that, for me, makes it even more powerful. Okay.
And I think back to the purpose of why I'm doing it, and really just not, obviously I have to make a living, but at the same time, I really thrive off making that impact. It feeds me. If I think of what I've done, even bringing individuals into businesses, etc., giving people opportunities, etc., which by doing certain things has allowed other people to change their own lives, but I've given them an opportunity to do so, which is, I suppose, that's where the privilege sits in for me.
So, talking about making a living, do you have a number of what you need to earn? And what is your goal? 3 years' time? What is your income goal? Do you have a number?
So to be honest, I'd be happy to all I would want, if I could just have my salary as it is now,
great.
I'd be happy.
Okay.
If it happens to be more, amazing, but if I could just to get my salary, that would be a privilege.
So when you're creating that vision in your mind, I think that's part of the story, because there's an element of earning the income that you want to earn, building a business that sits on your passion and purpose and the impact you want to have in the world, and maintaining the life that you want to live, whether it's, quality time with the family, a sense of privilege and blessing, and, the lifestyle that you're used to. So all of that forms part of the picture, because you can't take one out and say, okay, this is where I'm going to put the spotlight.
Exactly.
Great. So we've got this picture. And I'm going to take you back to my original question, which is, where do you want to be at the end of the conversation? You said you're almost at making a decision. So
yes.
Is it about making the decision? Is it about, what is it that kind of will help you feel like it's a deal, it's clinched? What do you need?
So two things. So number one is obviously sitting and working out the financials, which is something that I'm working on.
Okay.
Of financially, can I do this? Which is the practical side of things, and it's all good and well. I need to give myself a bit of a buffer to build up, etc. And so that's one element. Exactly. Mm-hmm. I think the biggest thing for me, though, is the confidence of, as I say, backing myself.
So when you say you're almost there in making this decision, what percentage is that?
If the finance side was clear to me, I would say that I'd be happy to resign tomorrow.
Okay. So what do you need to do to get the finance side clear?
I need to sit down and work out different scenarios. How would I charge? What would I do? Because I suppose there are different ways of doing it. I've never done it. I don't have the most financial brain. Yes, I have a husband that should be able to. In these times, it would be nice to leverage off that a bit. But if I look at like a charging model, I've got no ideas. I've done some research around what people are charging, and I've looked at the range. So I've now got the range, but then I need to understand how would I package it. So from a retainer.
So I'm going to stop you there for a moment, because there's all this head stuff. Say all of that is sorted. You have charging models, you have the idea in place, you have all the figures worked out. Say all of that is done. What do you need?
Resignation letter.
What's holding you back at this moment? Because you can do the facts and figures, and then also you can figure it out along the way. You don't have to have all the answers before, because, and I think this as well, but when you open a business, the first client meeting you're going to go to, may look completely different to whatever models you have planned out, right?
And I suppose that's the fear. Like, sometimes I think, yes, I've got this great experience, but like, is it going to be, am I actually going to be able to do this? Like, I've only had 3 jobs in my
so now
life.
we are getting more real, because it's not about the finances and the calculations.
Yes.
Okay.
It's practically because I feel by taking the step, I'm saying that I can do this. I am a person that really has always worked on that encouragement. So I thrive on people saying to me, "Oh, brilliant job, Taryn. That was excellent. We couldn't have done it without you." I really, that positive recognition is something that fills me. And knowing that I'm saying now I'm going into businesses that I have no idea about, I think that's the first thing. And also it takes time to get to know and understand the business.
I want to stop all this, because again, you are going straight into your head where, of course, the self-doubt and the planning and the questions are all going to come in. And I'm not saying that they're not important. I really want you to know. I'm not saying they're not important. They are important to look at. But let's look at the difference. When you spoke about 3 years' time and the vision that you had, and talking about the impact and the why and the what you want to do in this world, there was a certain energy to it, which was you were fully in it, fully. And like, I could feel the emotion and the passion and your drive. And then we go into, okay, so what's stopping you and what's in the almost, and there's all this noise and it's all sitting in your head.
And I suppose having the opportunity of only being in 3 businesses for such a long time, you get to know businesses so well. And that's also, it gives you that competitive, I don't know if it's competitive edge, but I don't know how to explain it, but almost to get to understand the businesses as well as I do, which allows me to make strong decisions and get involved from a cultural perspective, etc. I almost feel like, who am I coming in, not understanding the business? And obviously that would be part of the work, right? Trying to get in and understand understand the culture and give advice, etc. But I am a person that gets heavily involved, and I think one of the fears around consulting is that you're in and out. So I'm here giving a piece of advice or a project, etc., and then I'm out. And they do their thing. And I think there is potentially a sense of loss or a sense of separation, in a sense that you feel of not necessarily being part of something, because that being part of something does give me fuel right now, or has throughout the last however many years, if that makes sense.
Yeah, so you actually said 2 things in that. The first part was kind of, this is what I heard, tell me if I'm wrong. I don't know if the experience that I have is good enough for me to be able to start consulting with other companies and tell them what to do. That was one part. And then the other part was the fear around kind of really feeling like you're a part of something, that sense of belonging when you're in an organization, as opposed to being the consultant on the outside.
And I think it's lonely. I would imagine having your own business is quite lonely.
For sure.
Yeah.
So for me, there's something about the story that you're telling yourself about what this business has to look like. Because if we're talking about, first of all, let's change the narrative around what you have to offer. The fact that you went through 3 different businesses and learned from scratch, from the ground up, exactly what your role needs to be, what you need to do, and how you need to do that. And every time you took a leap and a step forward into the unknown, found your feet and learned your way forward. And that is something that actually, if it was all set out and laid out for you, you would never have had the richness of experience. So when you ask the question, who am I to kind of be doing this work, you're exactly the person that needs to be doing this work. That's to answer question number 1. And question number 2, there's something around, what is the story that you are telling yourself about how this business needs to be? yes, you can be a consultant that dips in, gives advice and dips out, but there's different ways of consulting. So create it in the way that you want. What do you need to create here so that it gives you what you want to have?
I want to be on speed dial. I want the CEO to have me on speed dial.
Okay. Well, that's your model.
I want someone to be able to not want to make an HR move without me.
Have you written those down? Well, it's recorded. You can listen to that. But that's good stuff, because that's different to what other HR consultants that I know. It's different to what they are doing out there. Because what they're doing is they're providing a function. What you're talking about is providing a right hand
support, right hand, and ear, a sounding board,
an HR on speed dial. I love that.
Yeah,
you don't need to make an HR move without me. And having, at 3-year level, having the right support team so that you're the one on speed dial to the CEO and you have a team that's executing underneath you.
Yeah.
But you're the one on speed dial.
Yes. That's exactly.
And I can tell you also, when you're that and you're the CEO at the head of the organization, doesn't even matter how big or small your organization is, it's always lonely. Yes. And that's something that you can put structures in place to, to figure your way out around that,
Agree.
There are ways to deal with that.
Agree. I suppose I have done like a lot of work around this, even, over the last couple of months, thinking, is this environment right where I currently am, and next steps, etc. So I've thought a lot about it. And I think it's now, coming to COVID just has fast-tracked. Yeah, I suppose. So,
I have a question around that, because the environment that you're in at the moment, I'm just wondering, how lonely are you feeling in that environment at the moment?
Very.
Yeah. And there's what did you say, 300, 400
400,
people?
Yes.
So you can feel lonely in a 300 people organization, or you can feel the most connected in a one-person organization.
Yes.
And that's entirely up to you.
Yeah, that's true. It's just good, I suppose, for me to be able to talk it through. I mean, I haven't actually had this conversation out loud.
Yeah.
I've, written all my notes, and, so to actually be able to speak it through with someone is just such a privilege, and almost feel like a weight off to be able to.
So how does it sound when you hear it spoken out loud?
Exciting.
Okay.
Exciting. I think it's getting a lot of the admin type or the noise out the way, which I think is I think I actually need to sit and write a list of the noise so that I can tick it off and get moving.
And a part of me wants to remind you not to forget to also, if you're making lists about the noise stuff, which isn't the most exciting, or it's exciting because you're working towards a vision, but make some lists about the vision. Make some lists about that company and what it looks like 3 years down the line.
Yes.
And what you're working towards and why that's important to you, because that's the stuff that's going to get you through some of the more mundane.
Yes, that's not
planning.
Exactly. I suppose it's literally thinking of, okay, where's that first client, more than actually thinking 3 years down the line. But to actually document it and put it on paper in terms of where you want to be is something that I haven't thought of doing.
Yeah, exactly. And for me, really, really important is to connect to that sense of passion and purpose and mission. So I get the feeling that, I don't know, but tell me, if after this conversation, where are you going to go? Where's your head going to go? Is it going to go to that, this is the path I'm on and this is what I'm creating? Or is it going to go back into that noise and overwhelm? Because even when we started talking, there was all these bits flying around, and that's the stuff that gets in the way.
I think that's the beauty of sessions like this, is that it just helps you to compartmentalize a little bit and to be able to say, okay, this is a lot clearer for me. So I think that's what's been so useful. So, I know I can sit and start to document that list so that I know what is going to literally get me from here to there.
Okay.
And I think that is really, really helpful. And I suppose not having the opportunity to have spoken it through with anyone, being able to actually talk it out and sometimes hear that noise that comes through, but push it aside and get back to the point.
For what it is.
Exactly. And I suppose when you're sitting having these conversations on your own, or writing on paper, etc., it's very hard to extract that.
Awesome.
I
love what you've just said. I think that's so important. It's being able to recognize what is the noise and what is the passion. And because the noise in my mind often clouds the passion and the purpose and the mission.
Yes.
So to be able to say, hold on a sec, that's noise. I can deal with that. Here's my list. I'll add it to the list. I'll do it. And even just writing it down or adding it to the list helps to quieten the noise. But don't let it overshadow the passion and purpose and mission that you really want, of what you want to create here. That's the part
100%
can't get lost. So what is your
100%.
Insight from our conversation today? I'd love to hear.
Sure. So I think something that I absolutely love. So speaking about the voice of human impact, and I didn't necessarily, even speaking through it, I didn't necessarily think of the personal aspect that I can bring to this. I'm thinking, so I suppose that's a big piece that's come out of showing that passion and really living through and talking about how I've done this and built the experience to be where I am. So I think that's a big thing. And I think, as you say, just really trying to extract that noise for what it is. For me to put together a financial model or to put together a contract, I'm saying a couple of hours work mustn't make me think about making decisions and not making decisions.
Exactly. Very good.
And I think that's the key here for me, as well as spending the time to actually think about the where to. Like it's fine to think now, okay, who's my first client going to be? But actually 3 years, actually having that conversation, because I've never said that, when you ask me what 3 years look like, I mean, that I hadn't ever, I maybe subconsciously had thought about it, but hadn't actually verbalized it before. So actually thinking about the type of business that I am working towards building, I think is very positive, and actually putting that down on paper.
Wonderful. And I'd like to remind you just of what I know about you. And I know that when you decide to get something done, you get it done. So that
sometimes
noise,
too quickly. That's what worries.
There we go. So I'm not worried about the noise and the planning and the strike. I'm not, because I know you'll get that done. And the other thing to remind you of is the power of the experience that you're coming in with and the road that you walked, in order to now be able to really clarify your mission and your offering, because it's right there. So when you talk about this and when you start talking about this, make sure to talk about your story, because that's the interesting stuff. If you're going to, put yourself out into the world when you're ready and talk about what you want to create, if you're going to talk in terms of an HR consultancy, then you're getting put in a box like many others.
Exactly.
But when you talk about your story and the path and the journey that you've walked and what brought you to this place and what you want to do, HR on speed dial.
Yes.
Don't make an HR decision without me. That kind of stuff. That's different. And that speaks to who you are, what your story is, and that whole personal thing, which I know is what your passion is. It's about putting people first and being front and center. So put you first, front and center of your organization and brand and what you're trying to build here.
Amazing. Thank you. I so appreciate it. Thank you for the time. I hope to speak to you in a month's time and give you an update.
Yes, I definitely want that update.
of where I am. So thank you. I really appreciate it.
Absolute pleasure. It was wonderful to speak to you. How are you feeling right now? Just tell me a bit of a check-in. Where are you at?
I feel a lot calmer and a lot clearer. And just in terms of those next steps. And I suppose the beautiful thing about this is, I suppose, only having 2 departure points so far from businesses is really knowing there's a time where you know that it's the right thing to do. And that real feeling in your gut that regardless, you just know this is not where you're supposed to be. And I think that's clear for me now.
Awesome.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks
Amazing.
so much.
Thanks so much, Daphna. Thanks a lot.
And this wraps up another episode of Leadership Live. Thank you for joining us today. You can head on to my website at daphnahorovitz.com, where you can download many resources, including a chapter of my book that will show you how to get through tough times and define a big vision for your leadership and your business. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe, and I'd be even more grateful if you'd share it with a friend, leave a review, and a 5-star rating so that I can continue to reach and support leaders just like you. Tune in next week to Leadership Live, where talented people become extraordinary leaders.